Hello everybody, this is Drew Douglas and we are back with WordPress for Designers day 18 today. In day 17, to recap a little bit, we went through and integrated our slider into the back end of WordPress. We made it easy for the user to just log in and add some pictures and whatever text they wanted, just save their changes and it would integrate straight into the slider. So that's what we covered in day 17. Today we're going to take care of a different page. We're going to look at our contact page, and we're actually going to make a really simple but completely functional AJAX contact form. So we'll just work that straight into WordPress using jQuery for our JavaScript library. So I think you guys will enjoy what we're going to do today. By the end of this, you will know how to integrate a simple AJAX contact form into any kind of WordPress site that you happen to be working on. So that said, let's go ahead and do this. Let's take a look at where we left off. You'll see that I have a contact page set up, that we already had set up. I have added, we're using our custom fields page text. I've added our little page text into there that will go on that wrinkled piece of paper that we've been using. Anyway, pretty standard here. That's all I've really done with it, and I've saved the changes. So if we go here and we go to our contact page, you can see that our page text is shown up here, and there's still our services and testimonials showing up in the sidebar because we're just using that default page template that we've stuck with. So and we don't have anything here. So if we go into Coda here, actually let's take a look at the PSD really quickly. Okay, so you can see that we need our other links in the sidebar instead of testimonials and whatnot. We need our form with all of our nice little form style and input buttons, and that's about it. And then we need it to actually work. So if we come over here and we go to the page.php file, you'll notice that it's still pulling testimonials out, which we don't need. It's pulling out a page image, which we don't need, and it's pulling the page text, which we do need. So we can go ahead and get rid of a bunch of this stuff. We can go ahead and get rid of that, and we're going to do that right now with a new WordPress default template. Lost my train of thought there for a second, sorry. Okay, so we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call this file contact_page.php. Okay, then we're going to go back to our original page.php, and we're going to copy the entire contents, and we are going to paste it in here. And go ahead and save. Okay, at the top of our new file, we're going to go up and let WordPress know that this is a new template file we're creating. So we'll open up some PHP comments. Whoops. We'll say template name contact page. And that's all we have to do to let WordPress know that we're going to have a new contact page now that's going to be available for us to use. Go ahead and get rid of the testimonial and page image. We won't be using either of those. And since we're getting rid of those, we can scroll down here and we can get rid of the testimonials altogether. We won't need them. Services, we can just, for now we can just change to other links. That's what it says, right? Yeah, and we can just leave the links there for now. Of course, we could go into WordPress and pull some links out of the back end. That's not our focus today, though. So do what you want with those for the time being. Okay, so we'll scroll down to page content. Well, we really don't need much of this. So right above the break class of dirty little trick, all the way up to the image tag, we're just going to get rid of. And then this is where we're just going to build our form. So if you've ever worked with forms, I'm sure most of you have as web designers or web developers, We're going to kind of just stick to the general form markup here, so it's going to be quite a bit of markup, but you know, hopefully pretty semantic, and it will allow us to have enough elements to work with here for the styling and whatnot. So go ahead and give it a form ID of contact form. Action is going to go to send_mail.php, and method is going to be post. This means that the form is going to post to the sendmail.php file, which we're going to create a little later on. Go ahead and close off our form. Next we'll do a field set. There we go. And a legend, which would be contact us. If you take a look at the PSD. Alrighty. Next we'll have our first label. We'll say label for name, which is going to be the name field. And underneath that we'll have the input class. We're going to say required and short text. Notice that I'm giving it two different classes there. That's required class and a class of short text. That'll just come in handy a little bit later down the road. A type of text. The name of this is going to be name, and the value will be empty. Okay, and we can just copy and paste what we just did, the label and the input, and that way we can save a little bit of typing. Now we'll say label for the email address. So we're going to require an email for from the user. We'll keep the same input class text, and we'll change the name to email. So there's that. Next we're going to do the subject. So the subject for the email, label for subject. Subject, required, short text, that's fine, and the name is going to be subject. You might want to choose to not require one, but we're going to require that they have some kind of a subject header before they send us an email. And finally the message. This will be label for message. And this will be a text area, not an input. So we'll say text area class is equal to required and long text. Name is equal to message. Value is blank. And we're just going to put rows and columns and leave them blank. We'll set them with CSS, but I believe they're required. And we'll close our text area. Lastly, we need our submit button. Input type equals submit. Name equals submit. Class is going to be submit form. And value is going to be send email. And we'll close that off. Okay, the last thing that we're going to put inside of this form is going to be a div ID of loader. And you're going to see what this does. This is going to be an empty div. I just put a spacer in there. And it will be, it'll kind of hold some of our AJAX effects that we're going to do a little bit later in this video screencast. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that and check our page and see what that gives us. Okay, not very pretty, but we have our basic form and markup that we need. So I guess we'll go ahead and we'll knock the CSS out for the form. We already have all the images. If you go back to when we sliced, not sure the day off the top of my head, but if you go back to the day we sliced all the images out, we have the images for this. So yep, that's what we'll do. We'll go to style.css and we will scroll all the way down. You can place this wherever you want, but I'm just going to append it onto the bottom. And we'll say contact styles. Okay, for our ID of contact form, which is our form wrapper, we're going to give it a margin of 40 pixels on the top and bottom and nothing on the left and right. A generic font size of 14 pixels and a width of 350 pixels. For our legend, say contact form legend, font size is going to be 28 pixels. Letter spacing is going to be 1 pixel. This is just a little CSS adjustment to get it looking exactly like the PSD, or as close to the PSD as we can get it to look. Font weight of bold, margin 40 pixels on the bottom. Alright, moving on to the label. Actually, we don't need to style that, I don't believe. Input field is going to be a width of 310 pixels, height 34. Again, you can get this by just looking at the background images. The background is going to be transparent. Our URL is located at style, images, contact_input.jpg. No repeat and scroll. Border none. Make sure the display, I'm overriding here. Okay, margin, we want 10 pixels of margin on the bottom. Color is going to be DDD. Font size is going to be 17 pixels, and the font style is going to be italic. So I feel like I might be going a little too fast for this, so I'll slow down and kind of show you what we have so far. If we refresh, you can see it's already looking much nicer with the input fields. If we actually type here, you can see it doesn't look too bad. So yeah, let's continue on now that we know what we're looking at. We need to style our text area still and our button. Our text area will be a background, transparent. URL is going to be style, images, text area, bg.jpg. No repeat. Scroll. Moving on. It's going to have a width of 378 pixels, a height of 149, no border, color of DDD, font size of 17 pixels, and the font family for the text area doesn't look very pretty by default, so we'll change it to just Arial, which everybody will have, and if not, it can just fall back. Okay, and lastly we'll do class of short text, width of 310 pixels. Actually, not lastly, one more thing. And the submit form button is the last thing I believe we need to take care of CSS wise. We want 10 pixels of margin on the top, and that'll do it. A width of 92 pixels and a height of 31. The background will be transparent. URL, style, images, contact_send.jpg. No repeat and scroll. The color will be white or number FFF, or hex code FFF, excuse me. Font size of 13 pixels. Make sure the cursor is set to a pointer. And a font style of normal. Okay, that should do it. Fingers crossed. Yeah, looks great. If you take a look, okay, well you'll notice they're adjusted to the left, but I think this looks just as good. If not, we could go back and adjust them to the left. But yeah, I think it looks great. At least a lot better than it looked before. So now that we have our little all of our things working, our input fields and whatnot, and everything styled, we can move on to actually making it function. So if you look back, you'll remember that we can close out our style here. You remember that our form is posting to sendmail.php. So if you actually go out of your theme folder and you go just to your root WordPress install, where you'll find wp-config and all of those files, we're just going to make a new file there so we can simply just post to it from that form. And of course we're just going to call it sendmail.php. Oops, it looks like I already have it. I'll open it up and just get rid of it for you guys. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So of course open up some PHP tags, and the first thing we're going to do is we don't want people just to be able to access this file without actually submitting the form. So we're going to make sure that the name is set. Say if is set post name. If it's not, we'll just echo out form must be properly submitted. Of course, feel free to word this or do this however you want, but this is just kind of a simple way to do it. Before I go any farther, I wanted to mention this, if I didn't already. We're doing it this way because even if JavaScript is disabled, this will still be functional. It'll still be able to post to the file. It'll still be able to send the email, and then we're just going to use JavaScript to override that functionality. Post to the form and grab the response. So that's why we're going to be echoing everything out straight from this file, is because we're going to have to echo it out and let JavaScript grab that response, because that's the way we're going to do it today. So, and it will be secure and validate as well. You'll see that we could produce slightly nicer error messages, but it's definitely going to do the job and be secure from some basic spam kind of things. You could always implement a capture or whatever you want to do for that, but it will validate emails and make sure that inputs are all sanitized and things of that nature. So I just wanted to mention that. Let's go ahead and set up some variables. We're going to call this first one input name. We're going to strip tags on all of these incoming post variables, and that would be post name. We'll do input email, strip tags on post email, input subject equals strip the tags on the subject, post subject, and input message. We'll also strip the tags and on post message. Now, of course, you could run a function that does all these tag stripping at once, but for the purpose of this tutorial, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to come down here at the bottom below all of our conditional statements, and we're going to set up a really small little handy dandy function. And we're going to call it validate email. And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking that we're probably going to do some kind of regular expression work here, and we're not. We're going to, I see a lot of people using regular expressions in PHP to try to validate emails, and unless you're running a really slower version or a lower version of PHP, like 4, and not one of the newer versions of PHP 5, you can use the filter var function, which we're going to look at, and not even worry about any of that regular expression stuff, because it is extremely difficult to allow for every single type of email format and valid format and catch it all in one regular expression without, either locking somebody out when you should or letting them in when you shouldn't. So it's kind of one of my pet peeves is using regular expressions when there are already built-in functions that you can take advantage of. Now that said, you are going to need PHP 5, PHP 5 or higher. I can't tell you if you'll need an exact version of PHP 5 or higher. I'll link to that below. But anyway, you can just always Google PHP filter var. But all we're going to do is return filter underscore var, or var, however you want to pronounce it, email, so the input email, and then we're going to have a constant filter validate email. And now all this is going to do is return true or false, depending on whether or not the email we pass to the function is valid or not. And that is it. I mean, that is how easy PHP has made it now to validate an email. So that said, we're going to come back up here to underneath our input message variable, and we're now going to say if validate email on the input email. So if they gave a valid email, and then we're just going to do some quick empty checks here. This is where you can take a little more time and try to nail each field, but you can really just do that in the front end with JavaScript, and we'll just do it this way. We're just going to say if it's not empty on the input name, and the input subject is not empty, and not empty on the input message. Okay. Yeah, okay, so what this is going to do, excuse me, it's going to make sure that the email pass is valid, and it's also going to make sure that the name, the subject, and the message, none of those are left empty. So if none of those are left empty and everything passes, we're going to go ahead and attempt to mail the email. So we're going to say if mail, then the first parameter is to who the mail is going to go to, so your email. So I'm just going to put down one of my personal email addresses here. And the next is the input subject, the input message, and any additional headers. So we're going to use double quotes here to embed a variable, and we'll say from input email, from the email address that they gave. So if the mail function is successful, meaning if the mail was successfully sent out, then we'll just echo back, your email has been sent. Thanks. If it was not successful, we'll just say problem sending email. Whoopsie. Okay, but if we come back over to our other statement here, if it doesn't validate, if the email doesn't validate, or if they left a bunch of fields out, we're just going to echo please fill out all fields and ensure that your email is valid. Just something simple like that. And we'll just save that. So if we come back to our contact form, we refresh, we put our name, and our name is Theme Forest, or the dude, that's better. Our email is themeforest@yahoo.com. Now notice that might not be an existing email address, but it is formatted properly, and that's where our function is going to help us out. This won't work if we were to put a comma and write some other email at email.com or whatever. That won't work at all. It has to be one properly formatted email address. Subject could just be yo dude, and the message could be whatever you want it to be. Theme Forest is a great marketplace. Okay, come over and click send email. You can see your email has been sent, thanks. And from testing this, I know it's arrived. I'm not going to check my mail on the screencast, but it has been sent and it worked. So it's working, but you know that was everything went nicely, but we could use some cool little AJAX effects here to make it even more friendly. So now what we're going to do is come back over to our contact page template that we've made. Actually, we're going to go back to our admin panel because we're going to go to edit pages. I don't remember, I must have already set that as the template for the contact page. Okay, well yeah, you're going to want to make sure you come back to your contact page and set the default template to contact page if you haven't done so already. Okay, anyway, so now I'll come back and I'll go to Coda, and above our get header call, we're now going to want to include the jQuery library, but we want to do this kind of the correct way because WordPress already comes with a lot of different JavaScript libraries. So we can just tell WordPress that we want to include them on this certain template. So we're going to say WP, and I will mess this up if I try to say it. So I'm just going to enquy script. You guys can feel free to ridicule me later. And it's ENQUEUE. I always spell that wrong too. Okay, and now we're going to pass it to the first parameter, a string. We're going to call it AJAX mail. See, the second parameter is going to be the path. So this is going to be backslash WP content, or excuse me, just forward slash, not backslash. Themes. Paper business, style, JavaScript, AJAX mail.js, and the last parameter is going to be an array, and we're going to say jQuery, all lowercase. Okay, so what's going on here is we're telling WordPress that, okay, we have a script called AJAX mail that we're just about to create here. It's going to be called ajaxmail.js, but we're going to leave the .js off for the first parameter. We're going to say it's located at this file path, and then we're also saying that this JavaScript file depends on this library. So it depends on the jQuery library. It's an array because this could depend on the jQuery library and you know, maybe Scriptaculous or something. So this is the right way to actually include scripts and template pages on WordPress. This is really thoughtful WordPress function that they put into the core, so take advantage of it. And remember, the name is AJAX Mail, so we're going to come back over to our theme, and we're going to go into style, our JavaScript directory, and we're going to create a new file. We're going to call it, whoops, no idea what I just did there. We're going to call it AJAX mail .js, and this is going to be all of our jQuery code for our for sending our mail via AJAX. So we will start off with, I'm sure a lot of you have at least worked with jQuery before. We'll say function. Okay, and then we're going to say, we're going to set up the, I'll try to comment this as best as I can. Set up the click event. And so we're going to say the class of submit form, which is our submit button, our little send email button, say on click, perform this function. Okay, now we're going to set up some basic variables. Oops. Some variables with needed values. Okay, so we'll say var input underscore name equals input colon EQ0, which means the first input field, which is the name field, dot val. So we're taking the value of the first input field and storing it in a variable named input name. Actually, follow that with a comma, not a semicolon like I did, because we're going to declare multiple variables here. So comma input underscore email is going to be equal to input EQ1 dot val, which will be the second input field as they're 0 indexed. I'm sorry, and that second variable should actually be inputs. Yeah, input email. Got a little confused reading my notes here. Okay, the next one will be input subject, which is going to be input colon EQ2 dot value, comma, and last is going to be input message, which is going to be equal to the text area value, so dot val. And then we'll end that finally with a semicolon. And again, I'm reading my notes wrong. Do not end that with a semicolon. Go back to a comma, and we're going to set up one more variable called AJAX underscore loader, which is going to store a little image tag for us. So we're going to say img source is equal to HTTP. And I'm just going to hard code this for now, because you'll remember I was having problems with my local install and using the constant of template path. So bear with me while I hard code this. But I'll say localhost colon 8888 slash paper business slash WP content slash themes paper business style images ajax dash loader dot gif, and the alt text will be loading, and we'll close it off, and finally we will end it with a semicolon. And I apologize for any of the confusion there. I'm looking off some of my notes I have printed out here, and it's very early in the morning, so I need more coffee now. Anyway, moving on. We are going to go ahead and hide any previous response text, meaning if they've clicked something twice or tried to send 2 emails and there's already a response put out and a div that we're going to have named of response, we're going to go ahead and hide it. So that's response ID dot hide. Okay, next we want to finally show the loader. So we've set up some variables, they've clicked on the send button. We want to show our little AJAX loader, which we actually need to add to our images folder before I forget. Okay. So now we'll show the loader, and we'll just say ID loader dot HTML, and that will be our variable AJAX loader. Okay, once that's shown, we're going to use the jQuery's post function. We're going to say post. We're going to post this to sendmail.php, which is our mail file, comma, and then we're going to use open and closing bracket, curly brackets here, and we're going to send some objects, and we're going to say name is going to be input name, comma, email, colon, is input email, subject, colon, input subject, comma, message is input message, and that's it. Okay, so put a comma after the right closing bracket, and we're going to say function, and inside that function we will say data, which is our callback function that will hold the response. And yep, okay. And inside of that, we will do something with our response. So this is what actually posts all of our variables and values to the send mail file. And here's our callback function, which is a function that will be executed once it has been posted and we received our response, which is stored in a variable, named data. So now we can go ahead and hide the loader now that we have a response. So we can just say, hide any image in the loader div. We're going to hide it over 1 second, which is 1,000 milliseconds approximately. And we're going to use another callback function. So function, and this pretty much means, so after the loader's been hidden, now we want to do something. So we'll say field set, which is one of our tags that we have. We're going to append, which means we're going to add on to the bottom of it. And we're going to append a div ID of response. And inside of that will be our data. And we'll close back off our div. Okay. And lastly, we don't want to forget to go ahead and return false upon click, or else the form will still be submitted. Okay. So I think there was one more thing we needed to do style-wise to get this working how we need it to before we do it. Yeah, we need to go ahead and style the loader and the response divs that will show up on click. So ID of loader, if you go to your style.css file, will be a margin of 10 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right. And the response text, which is going to just be the little div that holds the response message. We're going to have a little fun here with some CSS3. Border will be 1 pixel solid. Hex is 55A5D3. Border radius is going to be 5 pixels. Moz border radius 5 pixels. WebKit border radius is going to be 5 pixels. That should hit most of the supporting browsers. Text align is center. And again, if they don't have rounded corners on this, it's just a tiny little response box, so it won't make much of a difference. You'll see what I'm talking about shortly. Padding will be 10 pixels on the top and bottom and 5 pixels on the left and right. And lastly, we want a margin of 10 pixels on the top and bottom and none on the left or right. Okay, we'll save that. I'm hoping I didn't forget anything, and we'll go ahead and test it out and see what I did wrong. or what I maybe have done right. Okay, again we'll say the dude, email is email at myemail.com, just a properly formatted email. The test or the subject will be does it work? And I hope it does. Okay, so click send email. You can see your email has been sent. Thanks. So you'll notice that the AJAX, little animated AJAX GIF barely showed up. That's because we're running on localhost and it's just so fast. It gets the response from the AJAX request so fast. So if you run this on a live server, you'll notice that it'll show up for a lot longer and it look really nice like it's supposed to. But it's just, I'll go ahead and send another email here. But it just, it shows up and leaves so fast just because it gets the response back so quickly. But it works and it has been sent, and I know for a fact it's there because I've done this 50 million times to make sure it worked. But let's go ahead and actually we'll put in everything, blah. But for the email, we'll misformat it. We'll put themeforest at Yahoo, or themeforest. whatever at yahoo.com, and we'll try to put in 2 emails here. Support at blah blah .com. Like we're trying to carbon copy it here to another email. Go ahead and click send email, and you'll see please fill out in all fields and ensure that your email address is valid. So it is working. It is validating it. If we don't fill out any of it, of course it'll catch it and make sure that that all the fields are indeed filled out. So I think I'm beginning to ramble here. We can touch on next time if you guys want to adding some more client-side validation. So like some live field validation and some nicer error messages if you want. But yeah, give it a try. See if you get the email. You shouldn't have any problems. And that is how you integrate an AJAX contact form in WordPress. So I am off to go get some coffee and wake up here a little bit more. So I hope you guys have a great morning or afternoon or evening wherever it is you are. Happy WordPress coding, and I will see you guys for day 19 shortly.